He wanted to build a perfect society, but instead, millions died. This is the dark history of Mao Zedong. Part 1, Rise to Power. Mao Zedong was the founder of the People's Republic of China in 1949. He promised equality, revolution, and a new future. To many, he was a hero. But behind that image, a deadly chapter was about to begin. Part 2, The Great Leap Forward, 1962. In 1958, Mao launched a campaign called the Great Leap Forward. The goal? Transform China into a powerful industrial nation fast. Farmers were forced into massive communes. Private farming was banned. Even cooking at home was not allowed. People were ordered to produce steel in backyard furnaces instead of growing food. Part 3, The Famine. What followed was one of the deadliest famines in human history. Crops failed, food disappeared, but the government refused to admit failure. Officials lied about production numbers. Grain was taken from starving villages to meet quotas. Millions began to starve. Historians estimate that 15 to 45 million people died during this period. Some reports even tell stories of cannibalism. Part 4, The Cultural Revolution, 1966 to 1976. In 1966, Mao launched another movement, the Cultural Revolution. Its goal was to remove enemies of communism. Students, called the Red Guards, were encouraged to attack. Teachers, intellectuals, even their own families. People were humiliated, beaten, or killed. Ancient culture was destroyed, books burned, history erased. China fell into chaos. Part 5, The total number of deaths under Mao's rule is still debated, but many historians agree around 20 million or even more people died, not from war, but from policies, decisions, and fear. Mao Zedong remains one of the most controversial figures in history. To some, a revolutionary hero. To others, a leader responsible for unimaginable suffering. History remembers power, but it never forgets the cost. Millions were already dead, but the fear was far from over, because in Mao's China, even thinking differently could cost your life. Part 1, After the Famine, people expected change, but instead, silence took over. In Mao's China, no one could question the government. Speaking against Mao was like signing your own death sentence. Neighbors reported neighbors, friends betrayed friends. Fear became a way of life. Part 2, Red Guards and Violence. During the Cultural Revolution, chaos spread everywhere. Young students known as Red Guards were given power, but not wisdom. They attacked teachers, destroyed temples, burned books, and punished anyone seen as different. Some victims were beaten in public, others simply disappeared. Mao Zedong became more than a leader. He became a symbol. His face was everywhere. His words treated like law. People carried his little red book and memorized his quotes. It wasn't just leadership anymore. It was control. For hidden suffering, behind the propaganda, millions suffered in silence. Families were torn apart. Children were forced to turn against parents. Many were sent to labor camps where survival was never guaranteed. But the world knew very little. China was closed. The truth stayed 5, the end of Mao. In 1976, Mao Zedong died. China stood still. For years, people had feared him. Now, they didn't know what came next. Slowly, the country began to change, but the scars never disappeared. Even today, Mao remains a powerful and controversial figure. To some, he built modern China. To others, he caused unimaginable suffering. When power goes unquestioned, history can turn into tragedy. He changed a nation forever, but at what cost? This is the final truth about Mao Zedong after Mao's death. In 1976, Mao died. China stood at a crossroads. For decades, people lived in fear. Now, slowly, things began to change. New leaders came. Policies shifted. The country opened up to the world. Years later, the truth about the Great Leap Forward began to surface. Historians uncovered hidden records. The famine, the suffering, the millions who died. It was far worse than people were told. Then came the stories from the Cultural Revolution. Public violence, destroyed lives, a generation lost in chaos. Modern China is powerful. Cities rise, technology grows, the world watches, but Mao's image still remains. His portrait hangs in Tiananmen Square. His face is still on the currency. For some, he is a national hero. For others, a painful memory. Mao Zedong's legacy is complicated. He united China. He gave it identity. But his policies led to one of the deadliest tragedies in human history. Millions of lives lost. Not in war, but in silence. History is not just about power. It's about people. And behind every number was a life, a family, a story. The question is not just what Mao built, but what it cost to build it.